So if you spent your life being the good one who puts everyone else's needs first, or if you find yourself desperately seeking approval from people who don't even share your values, this episode reveals how the most painful rejections can become the catalyst that finally sets you free from external validation. Hey, this is Francisca, and this is my Mid-Crisis Life, and welcome to Crisis Confessionals. So, all my life, I've been taught to be a good girl. And when I say be a good girl, I don't mean like do good and be kind and have a good heart and those kind of like more moralistic types of goodness. I'm not saying I was taught to be horrible, but that's not what I'm talking about. When I say I was taught to be a good girl, I mean that I was taught to, just be quiet, sit down. Don't cause problems. Follow the rules, do as you're told. Definitely don't make a fuss, right? I was taught that my role was to be small, to not put my needs onto anybody else, to not cause anyone else distress or upset or irritation, to put myself at the back of the line. And that's, to me, kind of what it meant to be good, and through that to be accepted, and through that to be loved, and then through that to be able to survive, right? Courage talks about this idea of unconditional positive regard. So when you train to be a psychotherapist, as a humanistic psychotherapist, under his ideology of what it means to be a good counselor, a good therapist, he talks about the 6 necessary and sufficient conditions. I feel like there might be 7 now. It's been a while since I studied it, right? But there are particular and specific conditions that create a safe environment, right, for someone to be able to open up, to be able to talk about themselves. And there's a lot of different things. But one of the things that he talks about is this idea of unconditional positive regard. So this idea that no matter what your client says to you, you show them positive regard. You show them love, essentially. That you say, okay, like, I know you did fucked up stuff, and I know you think fucked up things, but it doesn't change my opinion of you. It doesn't change your value in my esteem, right? And it's likened a lot to that kind of like parental, maternal, paternal type of relationship, right? And obviously it's impossible to achieve all the time, to be unconditionally positively regarding towards your children, because we're people, right? And there has to be some boundaries, there has to be some conditions in terms of behavior. But I guess it's that idea of saying to someone, listen, it doesn't matter who you are, and it doesn't matter how you behave. It doesn't matter whether you agree with my opinion or not. It doesn't matter if you mess up. It doesn't matter if I like you in this moment in time. I still value you, and I can still show you that you're valued. I can still regard you in a positive light, even if you're not who I want you to be. And I think that growing up being told that I needed to be a good girl essentially created a vacuum of there being any kind of unconditional positive regard. So the love that I was given and the regard for me as a person, as a human being, was conditional. It was conditioned based on whether or not I did the right thing, I said the right thing, I acted in the right way. And the right way, as I say, was about being good. It was about being seen and not heard. It was about not having emotions. It was about not having needs that surpassed the needs of the parents that were around me. It was about not having an opinion that was in opposition to whatever it is that my mum or my dad wanted to position me to believe in, right? It was about definitely not creating any problems. And I think as a child, when all of the love that you get, when all of the regard for your personality, for your individualization is all conditional, essentially what's happening is you're being conditioned into becoming the person that somebody wants you to be, rather than being supported to become an autonomous individual with their own thoughts and their own feelings and their own needs and their own desires and all the rest of it, right? And I think what that does is it teaches you to be hyper vigilant and hyper aware of how you're being perceived at all times, right? Is what I'm doing going to garner a positive response or is it going to garner a negative response? So it teaches you to tune in to how everybody else is seeing you and to change and to adapt and to modify your behavior in a way that's going to glean this level of positive regard. But with it, what happens is that you compromise so much of your internal value, your internal authenticity, your internal individuality. And with that, the needs that you might have or the feelings that you might have or the emotions that you might feel, you modify, you change and you compromise those things so much that you lose the essence of yourself in the process, right? I think what it created for me is it created this tendency to have an external locus of evaluation. So Rogers also talks about an internal or an external locus of evaluation. So he talks about where does your value come from? Does your value come internally from understanding that and feeling that you are a good person, from feeling that the things that you do are meaningful and valuable, irrespective of what anybody else thinks? Or does your locus of evaluation come from the external? Does it come from being told that you're good, being told that you're good enough, being told that the things that you do are acceptable, from that kind of level of conditional love, conditional positive regard? And I think for me, 100%, my whole life has been about an external locus of evaluation, externalizing all my value onto other people and constantly seeking that acceptance, seeking that love, seeking that positive regard from other people through the things that I do. And this whole period of my life that I'm going through, where I'm shedding all of these relationships and I'm creating boundaries that are about loving myself, that are not about being loved through the eyes of someone else, is showing this in such a really visceral and really immediate kind of way, just how significantly I've placed all my value on everybody else. I've placed my value on someone else telling me that I'm valuable. And without that, I don't know where I am. I'm completely at sea. And the thing is, it's difficult, right? Because as a child, when you're very first starting out, when all of that information is getting downloaded into your head, when all of those software programs are starting to run, you're so reliant on your parents and, you know, your caregivers and the people who are there in the first instance to give you that level of unconditional positive regard so that you can find an internal value base where you think, well, actually, I know that I'm valuable. Yeah, because my parents love me no matter what I do, no matter how I show up, no matter what I say, no matter how overbearing or overwhelming my needs might be. It never feels overwhelming to them, right? I think that this whole situation with this guy who just completely ripped into me, right? Because I've decided to have boundaries and I've decided to not just pretend that someone's not doing what they're blatantly doing, no matter how big or small it is. I'm not going to modify my behavior and say, okay, well, I'm not going to bring that up because I'm going to be a good girl. And I know that this is going to probably cause conflict and I know it's probably going to make that other person feel uncomfortable. And, you know, my needs are not as important as that person's needs and all the rest of it. Like, I've decided now, no, if I have something to say, then I'm going to say it. It doesn't mean that I need to go around ripping into everybody, and there's still a way that I can be compassionate, I can be loving, and I can be thoughtful, right, in the things that I'm saying. But the fact of the matter is that I'm going to say it now. This situation with this guy brought up for me so clearly how much of my value is placed in other people. And also so clearly how, like, how I would often use this idea of being the bigger person, taking the higher road, not getting caught up in like the drama and just like, you know, letting things go. Actually, that a lot of that was just about cowardice. And a lot of it was about me not wanting to challenge people and then be told, because you've challenged me, I don't like you anymore. You have no value to me, you know, because so much of it is based on everybody else and how everybody else thinks and all of that external validation, right? The thing is, though, is that this situation really caused me to look at that really unhealthy pattern in my life. And something popped up on one of my feeds the other day. Like, I don't often go onto social media, which is ironic because here I am making content for social media, but I don't necessarily like scroll through hundreds of hours of Instagram, but like, unless my mental health is not doing too well, then yeah, I'll be there. But sometimes I go, right. Anyway, point is, right, is the other day this thing popped up and it was talking about this idea of limerence, and it was something that I'd never heard about before. And it says basically that people people mistake limerence for love. And limerence is where you focus your attention on somebody or a group of people, right? And essentially feel that and essentially feel that if they will love you back, if they will accept you, then that means that you're worthy. It means that you mean something. And I often find myself doing stuff like that, right? Like I'll just go into this complete like fantasy world with someone that I've just become obsessed with for like 3 or 4 months, right? And it's all about like, oh, like, if they could love me, then it means that like I mean something. It means that I'm worthy. Like it definitely would mean something. And I think with this group in Costa Rica, this friendship group, that is 100% something that I had done. I had placed them on this pedestal and had this subconscious idea that if I could be accepted by them, if I could be part of the popular kids, if I could be invited out, if I could be indisposable to these people, then it would mean finally, then it would mean that I made it. It would mean that I was loved. It would mean that I was lovable. And this guy responding in the way that he did, basically saying to me, no one fucking likes you. Everybody got together and decided that you were a horrible person, and everybody thinks the exact same way about you. Even though I have since spoken to a number of my friends from that friendship group, and they're just like, the fuck are you talking about? Like, never once have I ever said that. But at the time, it just felt to me like a breaking of my entire identity, because my identity and my value and my meaning was placed so squarely in the hands of these people, because I had created such a high level of limerence, right, for this group. And I kind of thought to myself, so hold on a minute. If I can try and be the goodest girl that I could possibly be with these people, right? And give and give and give to them and do everything to try and make them love me, and they still hate me, then what the fuck am I doing it for? Like, actually, what the fuck am I doing it for? And I get it, right? Because even if, for example, these people did see something in me, right? Because I can imagine that if I'm so desperate, right, to be accepted by a group of people, then the things that I'm doing, even though I give because I want to give, there was this kind of like superficiality superimposed like over the top of all the giving, where it was kind of like, yeah, but I'm also going to do it because I know that it looks good. And I know that with that, then you're going to give me something that I need. You're going to give me the reassurance and the love and the regard that I need in order to feel okay, in order to exist, essentially, yeah? So I can imagine that receiving that, there's a part of it that would have felt superficial. There was a part of it that would have felt transactional, right? In terms of how I was given and why I was given, even though it never really was that. Like, I still gave because I wanted to give, but sneaky, there was actually like, yeah, but now you can love me. Please love me because I did a nice thing for you. But hearing that actually nobody did, I was just like, you know what? Fuck this then. Fuck this. Fuck this. What am I doing all of this for? What am I worrying? What am I trying? Why am I endeavoring so desperately to get this fucking positive regard from these people when they all got together and decided that they fucking hated me anyway? What's the point? And it got me to thinking, once I realized that, it got me to thinking about this whole idea of like needing my value from others, and how most of the relationships that have been shedded from my life recently, like starting with my friend who, like all those people that were asking me for money. And if you haven't heard that whole story, I'll put the video up here and you can watch that. That's a whole drama in itself, right? But starting with those people, and then thinking about this group of people, thinking about my mum and the way that my mum treats me, and thinking about like, okay, if I can break the relationship with my mum, my mother, the person who I came from, the person that I want the most amount of positive regard from, the person that I've been trying to prove my worth to my entire life. If I can be done with that person, then I can fucking be done with anybody, right? There's nobody that should have more value than that person. And what I've realized is like, I know that these people in their minds think to themselves that I'm at a loss, right, from ending these relationships. I know that they're sat there thinking, oh, well, look at my neck. Oh, well, she's the one that's not going to have this, and she's not going to have me in her life, and blah, 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 blah. And as I say, it's not about it being transactional, but the bare bones of it is that these people offer nothing. They offer no value. The people that I've shed, they offer no value in my life. They don't call me and see if I'm okay. They don't offer me any help. They don't check in on whether my children are doing fine. You know, they don't come to see me. They don't celebrate my wins. Like, what the fuck is the value in these relationships? And my friend, I was talking to her about the other day, and my friend said to me when I was saying, you know, these people, one of these people contacted me afterwards and was like, I didn't know that you were going through this. I didn't know that I was one of many who were constantly asking you for money and blah, 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 blah. And my friend was like, yeah, doesn't that show something about the kind of valuable person that you are? That you're not out there talking other people's business. You're not telling everybody, oh, so-and-so's lending money off me every month and so-and-so's lending money off me every month. And even down to this guy that decided to try and eviscerate my entire character. Like, why are you gossiping about everybody? There's a reason that I don't know what other people's opinions are of you. And that's because I don't deign to talk about you with other people. So actually, how can I place my value as a person in people who act in a way that has less value in the areas that I think are valuable? I think it's valuable to have integrity as a person. I think it's valuable to have compassion as a person. I think it's valuable to be emotionally intelligent in your relationships. I think it's valuable to have an objective view of things and not just see things from your own point of view. I think it's valuable to celebrate the people and support your friends in every endeavor that they have as much as you can do, right? But at least be a fucking cheerleader on the sidelines if you can't even give, right? These people are not doing any of these things. So how can I possibly place my value into their hands when they don't value the same things that I value? It's fucking insane. Like, it's actually hilarious, like, when I think about it, right? Like, it's really sad, but it's really fucking hilarious. Like, it's really sad that I was molded and constructed into being this person. And it's really sad that all of my relationships, not all of them, a massive portion of my relationships just mirror the relationship that I had with my parents, of me just constantly trying to like gain love and affection and acceptance from people by just being enough, you know? But it's really funny. It's really funny when you finally see it, right, for what it is. And I finally saw how ridiculously ironic the whole situation was. It was just funny to me. I was just like, fuck this. Fuck this. Fuck this. Fuck trying to be what anybody else wants me to be. Fuck placing all my value on somebody else and for someone else to tell me I'm good enough. And fuck doing things because I think it's going to make me look good in someone else's eyes. Quite frankly, I'm going to do something if I fucking want to. It's as simple as that. And you know, the thing that I've realized is that the very strong likelihood is that I'm gonna want to do something for somebody because that's the type of person I am. I don't need all the other shit on top of it. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to do it because it looks good. So yeah, that's where I'm at. And it's interesting that, like, you know, what was like a really awful and really painful situation has created this whole new perspective. And it's not just a perspective. It's not just like I see things differently. I feel things differently. My body feels completely different. My focus feels completely different. It feels like my cells are reorganizing themselves into a much healthier way of looking at myself and not looking at myself through other people's eyes. So if there's anything that I'm grateful for, it is always the fact that other people so beautifully act as catalysts in our lives, right? And they don't even know that they're doing it. And sometimes the worst situation, if we can take a little time and we can look at it not just from the pain, not just from the conditioning, not just from the trauma or the gossip or the I'm going to be a bigger person than you, or like, you know, not from those kind of more personal human qualities. If we can truly rise above that and not do it because we're just being a coward and we don't want to actually deal with the fucking conflict of it all, but if we can truly rise above it, it's so beautiful to see just how beneficial those experiences are, just how beneficial those people are in our lives to challenge our current trajectory. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that. Okay. That's it. That desperate need for approval you've been carrying, it's not love, it's limerence, and it's keeping you small. Drop a comment about what good girl conditioning you're ready to shed, or which relationships you're realizing offer no real value. And join us on Monday Mindset for more talk about all of this.